Come here, Finn. Come here, come here. Hi everyone, I'm the Plant Propagator and welcome to my channel. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about plant propagation, orchids and orchid propagation, crossing, all that type of stuff, please subscribe to my channel. Today, if you can tell, I am not in Southwest Florida. I'm in north central Ohio, and this is not orchid growing conditions. But what I want to do is tell you a little bit more, tell you a little bit about tracking your orchids. Before that, though, I think I should give you a little background. Right now this morning it was 28 degrees Fahrenheit, about -2 Celsius. Right now it is 43 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 6 degrees Celsius. And today I'm here, come here Finn, come here Finn. Today I'm here with Finley. Finley loves this kind of weather. So Finley is, she's my granddog, and she loves this kind of weather. We were out today walking through. This is some property behind my house, and we were out just kind of walking around. She loves going into the creek and drinking the creek water. She doesn't go in too far, just up to, maybe to her belly, but it's pretty chilly outside. What I have right here is this is just a couple of acres, and what I have here is I've tried to make this, try to plant plants down here and kind of cultivate it a little bit. I do have daffodils growing along the side of the path here that I've carved out, and I've split those, and I have crocuses growing along the side of the trail. And what I'm going to do in the, I think in the autumn and maybe the midsummer, is I'm going to show you how to divide and plant out new crocuses and new daffodils. The crocuses get eaten a little bit by the rabbits and the chipmunks that are down here. Nothing seems to bother the daffodils. They grow. I just planted it a few years ago, so I don't have that many blooms, but I think I'll start to in a little while. The other things I planted down here, just so you know, is I planted, I don't know if you can see her, she's being very good. I've planted hosta back here, and the deer that come back here just love eating the hosta. So when I plant it out here, I kind of have to surround it with some fencing. But I've tried doing things. The problem here is with everywhere is that the animals tend to get it. Not so much the insects, but the animals that are running around down here. I don't have her with me all the time to chase the animals away. What I want to do today is go over how to keep track of the orchids that you own. If you just have one or two or a few, it's really not important to pay very good attention to what I'm going to talk about. But what I want to go over is for those of you that have a few orchids and how to track them. This, by the way, is a video recommendation from my friend Bill, and he suggested to go over this, and actually some of the sheets that I'll share with you are from Bill. And so the main thing that we know is when we buy orchids, we get tags that are in the pots, and the tags say what type of orchid we have, and those should be kept. The problem is if those then divide, we have to keep more different tracking on it, and when they flower, we track on it, and there's a way to kind of get to know your orchids better through a tracking system. So what I want to do today is go over a couple of different methods that are used to track the orchids in your collection, as far as what they are, where they came from, if they were repotted, and most importantly, the bloom time, and also the bloom type, the kind of blooms, images of the blooms themselves. So let's take a look, and first of all, I want to go over a classic and old school method for keeping track of your orchids.
This is a record sheet from my colleague, and these can either be hard copy or electronic. The first thing on here is the genus, then the name, then the cross, if you know both the parents. Next is the plant ID, which is a number that's assigned to that specific plant. Date received is when it was bought or given. Where purchased, grower. The medium is the potting medium. The size is the size of the pot that was in. The pot type is plastic or ceramic. Then the cost, and then any kind of general notes that are wanted. Finally, you can put an illustration on this sheet, again, either electronic or hard copy. The final thing is, if you're optimistic, the bloom record. And there's lots of dates here to put in when it blooms, number of spikes. Finally, well, second to end here is the repot record and when this plant was repotted. And again, there's a lot of optimism here. There's a lot of repotting notes, dates, and the medium and the size of the pot that was in. And then finally on this list is the awards that this plant is expected to receive at any kind of showing. This is a completed sheet, and this is handwritten, so this is hard copy, and you can see the background of this, and you can see what type of information that's in there. The thing here is that this 254 A and B. A and B is actually a split of this plant. This was purchased from Orchids Amore, which is in Fort Myers, and it was a gift from Bob. The thing is, on the bloom record, what you can see here is that this plant blooms about the same time of year every year. And again, if you look at the left column, A and B indicate the split of the plant. The repot record again is shown here, and it goes from a 4-inch to a 6-inch, and then finally to an 8-inch clay pot. And then the final thing on this list is the awards that this was given these are a local orchid society. So again, there's a lot of information, but it's only page 1 of 2, so this keeps on going. So this was a very successful orchid, and it's bloomed a number of times. In my hands, what I like to do is, this is a record that I keep on my phone, and this is just in the notes part of my iPhone. And what you can see is I just list the plants that I've received and when I received them, and then later on I started putting where I received them. HD is, I bought these at Home Depot. There's another Home Depot purchase right here. But then you can see there's some of the local Odoms is a Florida orchid grower, and I bought a few plants from them when I visited them. Sunset Valley, SVO, is Sunset Valley Orchids, and again, this is a shipment that I received from Fred Clark at Sunset Valley Orchids. You go further down on the list, and again, here's Orchids Amore, which is a supplier, a grower in Fort Myers. So you can see, here's my list, the final thing on my list, and it's sad, died orchids. I like to actually keep records of my orchids that are no longer with me. It lets me get in to see how long these plants last. Hopefully this list won't grow too much larger than it is, but it lets me see when I bought them or received them, and then when they exited my collection. This is a second list that I keep on my phone, and this is a collection of images that I have from the various orchids. And below each image, what I have is the name of the orchid and the bloom time. So I like having this. It's always nice to have pictures, images of your orchid on your phone. And this is just, again, a notes list that I have of a few of the different orchids. That should be all of the different orchids in my collection. When you look at this is one that I received, and it blooms every 6 months, which is really nice. So I like to keep records, and that kind of indicates how really vigorous that orchid is. Then I go down to this one on my list, and this was Mahina Yahiro Mishima, and this one again blooms about the same time of the year every year, only once a year. And then finally, one of my favorites, Mishima Victory. And again, you can see from the bloom time, it blooms every year, close to every year about the same time. So it's always nice to have pictures of your orchids, and it's nice to have the name and the bloom time in there as well. Okay, what I want to do is shift gears now and talk about tags and how the plants are marked. This shows a piece of laboratory tape that was marked with a permanent marker, and as you can see, it didn't last. What I recommend are just plastic tags, and what I also recommend is the use of a pencil. You know, this is kind of counterintuitive because you wouldn't think that a pencil would be a good marker, and it actually smears just a little bit, but a pencil is just a much better way to mark the tags that are on your plants. When you look at a permanent marker, what happens is initially it may look like it's going to work a little bit better. The writing is a little bit more bold, but the reality of it is that the permanent marker is not really permanent when you put these things out in the sun or try to, you know, it just doesn't last as long. So although it looks like it might work better, in reality it doesn't. So what I recommend really is use a pencil, and you can see it in the next series, the next video that I have, where I show you. On the left is a tag that was marked about a year ago with a permanent marker, and it's gone. And then the tag on the right here that you can see is in pencil, and that's still there, and you can see it very clearly. So it's pretty clear that the plastic tags just work a lot better, and even though it is counterintuitive, you really should use pencil. The tags come in a variety of different colors and sizes. These are small tags that you can get from Amazon. 500 tags for very little. The reviews aren't great. It says that it didn't mark good because it's textured, but the reality of it is that these tags should be textured, and that's what makes the pencil mark stay better. This review, they use a permanent marker, and you really do need to use pencils on these plastic tags. These are a little bit larger tags, and this is what I use to label and flag most of my orchids. You can see it has a matte finish on it, which means, and that's one side's matte, the other side is smooth. And you need to find the matte finish in order to write on it. And with these larger tags, you can simply put a lot more information on there. So for the small tags I use for seedlings, large tags I use for my larger plants.
So thanks for watching today. I hope you learned something from the video. And from Finn and I, happy propagating.